Hello, my name is Allegra Jenkins, and I'm making this video to explore some of the thinking around the changes that we need to make to our education systems. It's not changes we need to make, it's a transformation we need to make to our education systems. And let's start at the beginning. We now live in two worlds. I live in a physical world, I'm here in Croatia, but I also live in a virtual world. I can connect to all around the world. I was in Istanbul yesterday. We live in a completely different world, and we now are able to operate in two worlds, a physical world and a virtual world. And our children are being born into this world. They're being born into a world where we have a new generation of technology every year. And even that timescale is coming down. It was every 18 months a couple of years ago. But now we have a new generation of technology every year. So when our children start school at the age of 5 or 6, they're already 4 or 5 generations away from the cutting edge technology. And we are at the very beginning of the technology transformation. It's an exponential curve, and we are only just at the beginning. So we live in a completely different world, and our education systems have to change. They have to be transformed. They are unfit for purpose. That little boy, he lives in a tribal village in the north of India, in Gujarat, and he's learning to be a potter. He's learning the skills of his father. His father's a potter, his grandfather was a potter, his uncle is a potter. It is a village of potters. They make pots, and they make very traditional pots, and they make pots in a very traditional way. And he is learning the skills from his father, of his father and his forefather. And in the room next door, there's a friend of mine working with his uncle, and together they are looking at how they can change the pots, because these traditional pots are being replaced by plastic pots and other kinds of pots. So they need a new market. So they're developing, they're taking the ideas, they're working with design students from universities in the area, in fact across India, and they are looking at different models using the traditional techniques and traditional styles, but for a new market. And they're also looking at how you sell on Facebook and use the technology, which is very present even in the very most rural villages of India. So there's a child learning in a family that's learning, in a community that's learning. Katan works with the Gujarat government, so the learning goes beyond that individual, that village, that society. And that's what learning's about. We learn as individuals, but we learn in this context, and that goes and goes until we get to the point where our world learns, and our world learning is made up of all these 7 billion individual learnings and these less communities of learnings and organisations and families and all these subsets of groups that are learning around the world. So we know what learning is, and that's a very organic thing going that way. But what is education? Is education something that goes back that way? Because when we look what we've done with our education systems, we've taken learning and we've made it very linear. We've said this is physics, this is maths, this is chemistry, this is geography, very, very linear lines of learning. And then we've sent from the university sector down to the secondary school sector, down to the primary school sector, and now even in our kindergartens and nurseries, these linear lines of learning. So a child starts school with looking, with curiosity, looking up for the branches of learning and down for the roots of learning, looking holistically, and the tree of learning isn't there. What education is giving them is very straight, linear lines of learning. This is what you have to learn, and not only do you have to learn this, We will test you so that we know you know it. And not only will test you, we'll test your schools to see if you are learning these clear, direct, linear lines of learning, which is not what our world needs, not what we need. There is nothing individual within the learning system. There's nothing about what is it I as an individual want, what is my passion for learning, where do I want to go with the learning. And that opportunity for most people occurs much later in their life, by which time the limits and the manacles and the chains and the closing down of holistic thinking and learning has occurred. It's occurred many years earlier as a consequence of our education systems. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to come back to Einstein and say, I'm sort of throwing stuff up, but I don't yet know the question. So I don't yet know the answer, but I've just enjoyed sharing it with you.
Bye bye.